Italians took to the polls this past Sunday to elect a new parliament. The results were just as chaotic as the run-up, with no party with a clear majority to govern. Anti-establishment Movimento Cinque Stelle led the way with over 32% of the vote, but the center-right coalition is claiming rights to form a grand coalition government of their own after earning 37%. Joining us from Turin, Italy to break down the path forward is friend of the show, Professor Glyn Morgan. Professor, thanks so much for joining us. Now, with no party reaching the 40% threshold, President Sergio Mattarella will have to decide which party
the most likely outcome is a coalition
to govern. What do you think the most likely outcome is at this point?
At the moment, it looks like the most likely outcome is a coalition between Movimento Cinque Stelle, the new populist party, founded by Beppe Grillo, the comedian, and elements of the centre-left. It is unlikely that Movimento will ever form a coalition with the centre-right.
And so if the Movimento forms a coalition with the Partito Democratico, how much do you think their platform will have to change?
It's difficult to see what platform will emerge in any of the resulting coalitions, whether between Movimento and the left or Movimento and the right. There will certainly have to be some negotiations. At the moment, the most interesting policy position of the Movimento is the suggestion that all citizens will receive a basic income of roughly 1,700 euros. Now, this is a fabulous amount of money and is wildly impractical, particularly because Movimento also says that it wants to cut taxes.
And Movimento softened their view on Euroscepticism as recent as January, but do you think that with them in power, Italy may still have a referendum on the membership in the EU anytime coming up?
The Movimento is much less Eurosceptic than the Lega. It's much less Eurosceptic than many of the parties that we've seen emerging in Europe over the last few years. The Movimento is certainly not anywhere like Le Pen's party in France or UKIP in Britain. If you look at the opinion polls, the EU is still popular in Italy, and the suggestion that Italy would get out of the European Monetary Union and reintroduce the lira is horrifying to most Italians.
And since Lega Nord received the most votes out of the center-right coalition parties, as a whole they've decided to back Matteo Salvini for prime minister. How much of a fight do you think Salvini can put up for this bid to form a grand coalition? And if so, if a coalition fails to form, what is the likelihood of a new round of elections?
I don't believe that Matteo Salvini can put up much of a fight. I think it's very unlikely that he will be Italy's next prime minister. I can't see either the centro-sinistra, the centre-left, or the Movimento willing to go into a coalition that he wishes to be the head of. I think that one possible outcome, which is becoming increasingly likely, is that Mattarella, the president, will have to form a government where he picks the prime minister and he appoints cabinet ministers.
Professor Morgan, enjoy your time in Turin. Thanks so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure.